program heard each and every Friday only on Nice Radio.
Every year we betting, drinking and paranging to celebrate Christmas Day. We idolizing Santa, but no time for the Savior. This is not the way I say. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. After we done connive, fornicate and blaspheme, come the month of December. You come up with your quattro and parancalypso, you shake up your latido. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. And God so loved this world that he gave his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. And whosoever believes in Jesus Christ.
Keeping It Real is an interactive radio program heard only on Nice Radio. Join your host, Joel Abraham, every Friday as we discuss important issues affecting our society from 8 to 10:30 p.m. For persons living outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you can still listen to us on Nice Radio's website, www.niceradio.info, or you can email us at bdsnice@gmail.com, or simply give us a call at 784-456-5967. Remember, it's Keeping It Real, the interactive talk show program heard each and every Friday only on Nice Radio.
Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brayton Horn. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brayton Horn will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brayton Horn at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society need a spectacle. It might help us defeat some evil. This society need a spectacle.
Every year we betting, drinking and paranging to celebrate Christmas Day. We idolizing Santa, but no time for the Savior. This is not the way I say. Put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas, put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. After we done connive, fornicate and blaspheme, come the month of December. You come up with your quattro and parancalypso. You shake up your latido. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year. He came down here to save us from wickedness and chaos. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas. Put Jesus in your Christmas this year.
Good night, good night, good night, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Good night. It is Keeping It Real once again. It's Friday, the 6th of December, the first Friday in the month of December. And as the saying goes, there's never ever a dull moment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, wherever you may be, what medium you may be using, Keeping It Real is on the air. Every nook and cranny, crab hole, foxhole, dog hole, cyberspace, whether you're using inter-alien media or the internet, Keeping It Real is here. And all we ask you is to be decent. Don't be libelous, scandalous, scaremongering. Just be honest, truthful, and straightforward, and keep it real. Now, all we ask of you right now is to exhale all the bad carbon monoxide, dioxide, and all bad gases that you have clogged up inside your vein that might prevent you from taking in. And inhale, take a deep inhalation of oxygen so your mind will be free and clear and prepared. Keeping It Real is on the air. And when the line is open, as I mentioned before, because it is an interactive program, you can call in or you could WhatsApp or send a voice message. Keeping It Real. Father Abraham, as the saying goes, there's never ever a dull moment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it seems like it's only in St. Vincent these changes happen. It seems like the constituency campaigning within party is getting even worse than the national campaigning overall for constituency. Some things that is taking place, one would never wish that such would take place within party ranks. And it's sort of showing the weakness of the party structure. And I am putting out a suggestion, I mentioned it before, that the party ought to put in their manifest, in their constitution of the party, certain structures that would safeguard against these sort of stupidness. Because nothing more than that. So, after general election, and whether you form government or not, midway through that term, all parties who are interested in participating in the next general election within party should declare their interests, and the necessary procedures should be put in place to facilitate. So at least 2 years, a year and a half prior to the election, the constituency can know who the proposed candidate may be. And that will save a lot of the stress and unnecessaries that are presently taking place. And it is not just the opposition is happening, it's happening in the government also. But they have their mechanism under control. So it will not be out. And their people do not go on Facebook and those sort of things and plaster these things as how it's happening with the opposition. I think they need to much more understand the bigger picture than to try to damage each other and then create fuel for the other party when the time to come and whosoever when they run off to start to deal with that issue. And it could have serious impact on the parties. So my piece is that I hope common sense prevail and this nonsense that is being taken place and blown out of thing where we have color question, color and race and class and education and all these sort of things and people's personal life is being dragged to the mud with inconsequence among the same thing. Things like this should be a no-no. And the leadership should ensure such doesn't happen, regardless of who the person is. And people need to rise up. People need to wise up. Not just only rise up, they need to wise up and understand. Because not everybody would be of certain ilk and certain lines that are being pushed by certain people would marginalize and isolate some people from ever having an opportunity. See, they tell me at all, you have a good community worker, a simple common person, but you tell me at all because he's simple and common, but he get things done. He don't stand a chance against somebody because of complexion or because of their education and them sort of thing. At the end of the day, sometimes that individual may make a far better politician and far better person representing the community than those elitists that we would want to think, because most of the time they don't see the common person. They don't understand the commonness. It's all about their ego, and at the end of the day, sometimes it's swelling out so big that they get blinded and lost sight of what it was all about, that you choose to run and say you want to represent people. If you want to represent people, come among the people, dialogue with the people, have discussion. Don't use your money and other influential thing to get there. And you know for sure your heart is not in it because you can't find yourself among the common people. And I get to understand that some people are annoyed with the statement that I made to say that people are parachuting. It has happened all the time. It has happened all the time. It's a person who doesn't represent living in your constituency and they come in parachute into to represent you. That's something that's happened. I can call them, but I will not. And it is not something that I would adhere to. Most of the time, I prefer somebody from within the constituent, homebred, as we would call it, to be the representative. than somebody who parachute in or somebody who live on the fringe. You never see them among the commonness of of the constituency. They don't see the whole thing as part of the whole aspect of the community. But only when the opportunity arises, they will try to take opportunity of the situation. But I hope they put a policy in place whereby at least 2.5 years prior to the general election, that candidate show the interest and the necessary procedure go forward. So by between a year and a half and a year, the person could be already and prepared to go forward to represent the community, the constituency. And they could get the team together and do all the necessary work and all these sort of things. I think sometimes we take too late to do these things, and it's a stressful situation. It's very stressful. And I hope the nastiness that is going on could be done once and for all. And the leader and management of the party need to put the foot down and address it. But anyway, I listen to the Minister of Agriculture. I couldn't do nothing else but laugh. My grandchildren laugh, say, Papa, what you laughing for? I say, because the Minister of Agriculture give me a joke. I say, this man is like a clown. So my granddaughter said, what do you mean you like a clown? I say, yes, because he keep on repeating himself and trying to use all kind of fancy words to try and bamboozle people. Yeah, he mentioned about the whole situation about livestock and shipping with livestock and all this sort of thing. But even I don't know if you could recall where that we had a real booming livestock industry in this country. Where we had the way you call them boat, we used to go down to Trinidad, the Ram Goat boat, where hundreds of animals every Monday going to Trinidad. I myself was one of the biggest livestock because at one stage I had over 150 sheep and goats, Preen and Larceny and dogs, and also had to get rid of them because of they had the land space anymore to manage it. And the last set time that I have dog with me out, I never get any compensation back from the ministry or anything like that. So, but I still ain't give up because presently a couple out in the bush in a rural area, maybe about 7 to 8. But it's difficult here. I'm catching them because I try them and just let them go. They used to come to me, but I don't go to that area that regular anymore. So I ask my relative if they're still there, and they say yes. Sometimes people just go for because they are multiplying. People just go for try shoot them because they're only so because it's kind of wild now. So yes, Father Abraham, he mentioned about shipping away of livestock, and we are the biggest livestock, and some body from Grenada coming to buy 100 head of cattle and these sort of things. And I see it. These people for real. Under them, every aspect of agriculture take a nosedive. Banana went under. I remember 2 elections on the street, they tell you that how they're gonna go back into 200 acres of bananas because they heard the opposition say that how they have plans in place to do that. And they tell you what they have it day and day, and 2015 and 2020 and nothing. Can't recall that even one whole of banana were planted. And while I'm talking about that, it's the Minister of Agriculture and You need to let the extension people visit the community of Career and Collins and Farm and those areas in New Maracay constituency. And Mr. Prince, you need to ask the Minister of Agriculture to address the MOCO situation that are affecting the farmers because they're trying to plant back. But as soon as they plant back, the MOCO is showing its ugly head again and they had to cut back. So assist them, please, so that they could get back some livelihood with their planting and the banana. Also, a number of them name has not been registered to get the money that you say you already paying to banana and planting farmers. Please, Mr. Minister, because I can't ask the extension people anymore because they say that you right now is chief cook and bottle washer. You have a workshop and you have to have all this. And you have to make all the talk. And you're making it sound as if everything is with you. USB at all. Everything start and end with you. I'm not the extension person. All I know is that you should be the one with the policy, and the extension person should guide you according to your policy to tell you whether or not the policy can work or not work, and how to tweak it so it could work to get exactly what you want. The best for the farmers. And I could recall I mentioned here about the situation with the volcano and this and what it has done to our soil in the last 2021 eruption. And something needs to be addressed because the impact that it's having on farming. Nobody seems to learn to me any mind. But now you're bringing export from other countries. Me no export, right? Me just ordinary kaba personally just go out and try things and listen to things and do my own experiment. And I mentioned from Mark what I had done, what the eruption residue, ashes and whatever form a hard pans like cement, the soil, and preventing the necessary percolation and all that. And then you make matters worse by going and add ammonia to it. So it become even much more things where it burns the plant root and you plant them. Instead you get big yam, you get some small little marble white yam and all these sort of things. But now, you, the minister, who was once Minister of Agriculture, is asking CARI to work with the extension and the soil personnel to address the problem that farmers are facing at this present moment. And that was mentioned in a workshop or some presentation that was made in his constituency this week. When I heard it on the news, I said, at last somebody understand what I was talking about. But don't give me any recognition for it because why I'm a loud mouth. You see, I had a mouth. I just talk. But I know when I open my mouth to talk, I'm talking factual and I talk in reality. And we need to address it. Then, Father Abraham, vending. I have seen an influx of a new style of vending right now. And I want to know how Tongboard is going to address it. I see Norvan, I see Psychic and SRUV. I seen something like Caravan. And they are parked along the roadside, almost every community or so. you might see one of them. And people are playing their trade. And when I mentioned to you that vendors are resilient and they would come up with some kind of way to address their situation that they can earn a livelihood, and you ought to meet with the people and discuss how you can work out something. We see that how you have plans in place and you have things in place. What plan? Maybe some 3 and 4 cutlass you aleha. Yes. And ale planning who? Ale planning ale workers, because at the end of the day, workers can make a $400 a fortnight. When a worker show me what she's making, and she have to get up after bed 3 o'clock in the morning for catch a van for reach town for 5 o'clock on Sundays. So the same van I catching to go to church on Sunday morning by Anglican, the same van she catching to come to town to work at Tongboard to do the cleaning and all sort of things. And after all that, still can make $400 a fortnight. And you see the minimum wage is $50. So explain to me why Tongboard workers can't make $400 a fortnight. And then you see what you love workers. If I remember, Park was like a carnival. It was case of confusion. I hear had fighting and all sorts of things over the money that they say they're sharing away. It seems like there's a whole sort of Bungie scheme going on, because there's another one that I read, and some of them that work where the Prime Minister is supporting this one, saying that it's revenue that you're earning from the taxes, the excess taxes that you pay, whereby you could pay in $800 can out up to $8,000, and the government cannot tax you on it, because this is from the excess tax that they receive, and they are putting in place millions of dollars so that the average up to 4,000 Vincentian right now could join this thing and get at least $8,000 a month. I remember, I don't know if you know about this, but I read about it, but I said this song to real to be true, so I leave it right there with it where I see it. Okay. I see some people mention, yes, they have tried it and it's working. Good for them. But my call is that why then, and why only now, is something like this being pushed, since it is known for a period of time? Huh? Why was it not? And that's why I'm saying the financial month just finished a while ago. While all these financial aspects to educate Vincentian about finance and business were not put in a structure and program way and teach ordinary man this thing, but not at this last moment. Well, I say I smell a rat. A dead rat that don't get poison, and it is messing up the atmosphere. The odor and the stench that is coming from it. So people be aware. Be aware. You end up that you might end up and lose what little that you have. Trying to grab after something. Although the government is saying that it is being banked and supported by the Bank of St. Vincent, and the government would guarantee. So I'm saying that if the government will guarantee, let the government pay the $800 to everybody. Since they can't lose. And that will be far easier. There's a number of situations happening in these schools. A number of schools having situation concerning their exam, and with the rain coming and all that, all sort of problems they're facing, like flooded yard, leaking roof and other things. So education is getting a black eye. And then some school they have the necessary resources. And another one that is impacting on them is the playing facilities. I didn't know till sometime today that if the school want to use the playing facilities, they have to pay. And this I think is highly wrong. No wonder we have to have crime and violence, because when our children pent up and they can't get free access to these playing field that we, when we were young, had free access to them to burn our energy. But they know, unless the school pay, they can't enjoy the facilities that should be free for all once they're not desecrated or damage it. But that is something that we ought to stand up and make noise about, and let such policy change. Why is the government not giving the sports council or whatever thing of $20,000-$30,000 to manage a playing field so that the children and them from the various school and preschool and secondary school could participate in sport for free, not a burden on the parents to contribute. These things are highly wrong, and they need to be addressed right now. Not yesterday, not today, and not tomorrow. I'm talking about right now. Put the necessary things in place that no more schools should be paying to use sporting facilities. That is important for our children to develop the skills for the various sports and whatsoever. And that's just it. For the tourist season, especially cruise tourism, is on. And it's really okay, but I have some things that I've seen that need to be addressed. One, to the Vermont Nature Trail, I don't think no tourist should venture on the trail without a guide or some personnel to go along with them. It is plain with danger, because the condition of the trail and trees still hanging up in the broken branches still hanging up in the air and trees, what we call a widowmaker. People could go up there by an individual or two person and then fall along and damage them. They could twist the ankle, need support. They could also slip over embankment, and they could be up there and then darkness overcome them. So there should be every tourist site, especially the hiking area, personnel that would take these people. And added to that, we have sensitive plants and animals out there. Who to know what could happen if we are out there on their own? We need to say a stitch in time save nine. We don't want to hear next thing you hear some one of them come and they by chance. A young parrot drop out of the nest and whatsoever. Able to conceal it and it gone. I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying in other countries where I have went and they have trails and hiking places like this, you don't go there on your own. You don't. So I hope these things are being addressed. But I remember the whole fun of there's some other things that I have to mention, but I will hold that for now.
It's time to love again. No more sorrow, no more pain. This is Uncle Crazy, Gio Loco, the original Farang Soca King. The door used to open wide, while Granny baking inside. Never had nothing to fear. Once we know Christmas is here, we lining in the backyard, drinking and we laughing hard. What's more?
Making us very proud. Let us never forget that. But the media, no. As soon as there's one murder, it is front page and they talk about it. But the thousands of young people who do well, you don't get that kind of a coverage. If you get the coverage, you get it on page 40, continued on page 40. You know how that goes. And meanwhile, politicians, opposition politicians, or would-be politicians, who, including some journalists, who want to be politicians, but are not brave enough to come into it, they spit to the wind and they begin to talk all kinds of general thing, and is Rowley fault, is Philip fault, is Ralph fault, and all that sort of thing, and give us a chance and we will do better. They have no plan, nothing at all. You know that and I know that. And the public knows that. And we have to call out that kind of a foolishness when we hear it, because we need to have a mature conversation, which is what this is about. A mature conversation based on fact. Around the region, opposition parties are saying, I want to work with you in dealing with crime. Don't believe that at all. The opposition parties are interested in the following things: to oppose, to expose, and to depose constitutionally. They don't have anything to propose. I haven't heard any of them proposing anything. And they can fool other people. They're not fooling me. I'm too long in this game to be fooled with these kinds of considerations. We need to have a mature, realistic contribution.
We start to plan for December. Stop the great King was later.
The battle over the estate of late Jamaican hotel mogul Gordon Butch Stewart has intensified, with his family embroiled in legal disputes over his multi-billion-dollar empire, including Sandals Resorts, the ATL Group, and other assets. The conflict pits Butch's Jamaican children, led by Adam Stewart, against his common-law widow, Cheryl Hamersmith Stewart, and her 3 U.S.-based children. Key developments: audit demand and allegations. Executors of Butch's estate, including Hamersmith Stewart, are seeking a court-ordered red flag audit of the ATL Group, citing concerns about alleged financial mismanagement since Butch's passing in January 2021. They claim Adam Stewart assumed the title of executive chairman of Gorsta Limited without authority, increased ATL's management costs by 50%, and used company resources for personal ventures. They also allege mass resignations in ATL's accounts department and accuse Adam of taking loans from the ATL pension fund. Family counterclaims. Adam, along with his siblings Janie Stewart McConnell and Brian Jardim, denies these allegations, accusing some executors of misconduct and hostility. They have filed a lawsuit seeking to remove 2 executors, Hamersmith Stewart and attorney Trevor Patterson, citing conflicts of interest. They claim Patterson forged a document to deceive trustees and that Hammersmith Stewart is pursuing hostile litigation over Bahamian trusts tied to Sandals. Estate distribution disputes. Butch's will, dated May 2020, outlined the division of his assets. Adam received a 52% stake in the ATL Group, with his brother Bobby and US-based Gordon Stewart each getting 24%. Adam was also named chairman of ATL. However, the Bahamian trusts, which control Sandals resorts and most of Butch's wealth, are at the center of a separate dispute. Hammersmith Stewart is seeking a larger stake for her family, which could diminish Adam's control over Sandals. Executor resignations and court oversight. 2 executors have asked to be released from their duties, leaving Patterson and Hammersmith Stewart potentially in control of the estate's administration. Adam and his siblings are seeking court intervention to prevent this scenario and have proposed appointing independent chartered accountants to oversee the estate. Economic and operational challenges. Sandals Resorts International recently deferred the final $6 billion, $40 million, payment to 9 beneficiaries due to economic pressures, with a new deadline set for April 2025. Despite challenges, Sandals remains a leading all-inclusive hotel group and a key contributor to the Caribbean's tourism economy. Legacy and uncertainty. Butch Stewart's will emphasize the importance of preserving his legacy, including stipulations to protect loss-making entities like the Jamaica Observer. However, the escalating legal battles, claims of mismanagement, and contested asset distributions have created uncertainty over the future of his empire. Both sides claim to act in accordance with Butch's wishes, but the court must now determine how to resolve the disputes while safeguarding the businesses that were pivotal to his success.
On the 25th of December, they found the baby lying in a manger. Oh, they rejoice and be glad in him.
I met with the Commissioner of Police. I have received and accepted his resignation. The Commissioner of Police has served the force with distinction. I want to emphasize that there are no allegations of wrongdoing against him. But the Royal Bahamas Police Force needs change. I have identified a highly qualified successor who is well suited to oversee the necessary reforms and change needed. This appointment, of course, requires a consultation with the leader of the opposition. Hence, I have not disclosed the name. And I asked the clerk, could you just deliver this letter to the leader? That has the name, and I hope he'll keep it quiet until we have the opportunity to discuss it. I would invite you, following the adjournment of this House, to meet with me in the Cabinet office across the street so we can have a discussion on the matter, if you wish. But you are invited to meet me and discuss shortly after adjournment. As we adjourn, I'll go over to the office, Cabinet office across the street, and you can join me there and we can have a discussion about the new appointment. Madam Speaker, of course, I'm sure the member for Marco City, the leader of the opposition, recognizes the urgency of this consultation and will swiftly, of course, meet with me to discuss it.
I say, careful what you wish for this Christmas. You might just get more than you bargained for. Last year Santa Claus was real.
Heard of the story behind your Miranda rights? Let me tell you about it. So it has to do with this guy whose name is Ernesto. And in 1963, after a woman is kidnapped and raped, Ernesto is the lead suspect. Officers bring him down to the Phoenix police station and interrogate him for 2 hours. And after that 2-hour interrogation, Ernesto confesses to the crime orally, and then he writes a written confession. So prosecutors take this confession and move on to trial. During the trial, when they try to get this confession admitted into evidence, Ernesto's attorney objects because he says that this confession wasn't actually given freely and voluntarily because officers never read him his rights. Ernesto was never told that he had the right to remain silent and anything he said can and would be used against him in court. And he was also never told that he had a right to an attorney because if an attorney was there, he would have told him to be quiet. But even though Ernesto's attorney raises this objection, the judge overrules it and says that the confession can be admitted. So the trial continues, and after about 5 hours of deliberation, the jurors find Ernesto guilty of kidnapping and rape, and he is sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison. Now, after the trial, Ernesto's attorney appeals the conviction, arguing that, again, his confession was not given freely and voluntarily because he actually didn't know he had the right to shut up. The Arizona Supreme Court denies the appeal, but then Ernesto's attorneys take it up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they side with Ernesto. In their landmark ruling, they say that everybody must be told that they have the right to remain silent and that they have the right to an attorney. And it is only after a person waives those rights can officers begin with their questions. However, the Supreme Court also ruled that if a person changes their mind, so first they say, yeah, I want to talk to you, and then they say, actually, I want an attorney, the Supreme Court says that questions must stop. So that is the landmark ruling from which the Miranda rights come from, because Ernesto's last name was Miranda, Ernesto Miranda. And in case you're wondering, Ernesto's original conviction gets overturned by the Supreme Court, but the state of Arizona decides to retry him. So they have a whole nother trial. They don't use his confession, but he gets found guilty again. And he gets sentenced to 20 to 30 years again. But that is the case. How many of y'all knew that?
Be careful what you wish for this Christmas. You might just get more than you bargained for.
Pleasant good night to all in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, keeping it real right here with you, December 6th. And in the month of December, we all can bring to our recollection that this will be the fourth Christmas since those workers, police, public servants, was dismissed from their job by an act, the Public Health Amendment Law. And we can note, as we speak tonight on December 6th, it will be 7 months and 4 days since the Court of Appeal have heard the argument from both sides. And today, 7 months, 4 days later, no judgment has been rendered. And yet, those public servants, some of them who have then deceased, some who have a lot of blood clot, some who passed on for one or other reasons, they are still waiting on our justice, or should be justice system, to render their judgment again, because we know that the Justice Storm, no, Justice Henry, granted the judgment in the favor, indicating what was done was improper, illegal, among other things. But 7 months, 7 long months, those public servants and teachers and those who were dismissed from their job for the fourth Christmas, they will be home. Some of them found other creative ways, but they are waiting on the court of justice to render their judgment on whether or not, according to the Prime Minister, the single judge rule in accordance with the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or the single judge misinterpret the law and the Constitution or whether or not the single judge were correct in her judgment, and therefore the teachers and the public servants and police officers ought to be back on the job and fully compensated. Like I told you before, and I will say it again, that judgment from the Justice Henry, in my opinion, very sound, because you cannot dismiss public servant like the way in which it was done by the act or by the amendment, cannot, or the measures, special measures. You cannot dismiss public servants like that. You cannot take away the benefits like that. And we are waiting on the Court of Appeal to issue the judgment, I almost say immediately, so that those public servants can have a Merry Christmas, have a pleasant Christmas, rejoicing that 2025 will bring a brighter day for all of them. We're waiting patiently for a justice to be done and not just this, as we are seeing for the last 7 months and 4 days. You could remember the matter was heard on the 2nd of May, and we're now on the 6th of December. Another matter is the issue, the clip I played with the, has some interesting, an interesting week in Bahamas. The Bahamian people saw or witnessed what we saw and witnessed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2011, as police officer stormed our local parliament and ill-treated members of the opposition. Mind you, the Speaker of the House did not get the approval of the House to name all the members of the House, because all the members of the House were not named, but they were flinged out like manure, as somebody once said. And to a large extent, I blame the opposition for what happened in Bahamas earlier this week. Because if they had taken the matter to court, what happened in Bahamas would have never happened. I am of the opinion, based on my understanding of the Erskine May, that is the Parliamentary Bible, because we have the standing orders of the House, and the Parliamentary Bible is the Erskine May. That basically governs how the House should function, and I don't think any police officer has any right laying their hands on any member of the House. As I indicated before to you, the one who is in charge of the House is the Speaker of the House. The Prime Minister is in charge of government business, the leader of government business in the House. The Prime Minister does not, or he's not in charge of the House, but the Speaker. And if any member are named or should be named by the Speaker, the one who has the authority to escort that member out is the Sergeant of Arms. The Sergeant of Arms is the one who is possessed with the authority to escort that individual or those individuals out of the House. So that is why I blame the opposition for what happened in Bahamas. But what happened in Bahamas was a little different because the members took up the mace and fling it out or throw it out the window. Because he was disturbed with the ruling of the speaker, rightfully or wrongfully so. I didn't get all the details. But the mace in the House of Parliament that are still under the king is the symbol of authority. And if the mace is moved from its place, then Parliament must be suspended. If the mace is not in the House of Parliament, then you have to call the Governor General to be seated there because the mace represent the authority of the Governor General or the King, which our Governor General represents. So when the mace was thrown out of the house, I listened to the Speaker of the Bahamian, the Parliament, asking for a move to suspend the House for 50 minutes, and I laughed because I want to know whether or not the Speaker didn't understand that basically she had no control and the House wasn't in session. Technically, the House was suspended by virtue of the mace were removed from its place. So I listened that and I wonder whether or not we have some bunch of jokers across the region. I watched it and I laughed. But nevertheless, the Parliament was suspended and I remember, I think it's Dr. Friday, they brought out like that. See, a few police officers are lifting some members of the opposition and lifting them outside of the Parliament, which in my opinion, they have no authority in the House of Parliament touching any parliamentarian. And I listened to person jailing the opposition members after that particular incident. And they asked the opposition, members of the opposition, why they did not take certain matters to judicial review to get the court ruling or interpretation on it. And it seemed to me that we know sometimes the court disappoint us in terms of the ruling and the judgment from time to time. And Sir James is a perfect example, and Toussaint and Marcus de Freitas. And all three of the individuals I mentioned had to go to the Privy Council to get justice instead of just this, what was happening in our local court and the Court of Appeal. They had to go all the way to the Privy Council. And when they went to the Privy Council, they were greatly awarded, and some of them still are waiting on the fruit of the judgment. But they had to go all the way. So I'm saying some of the laws, in our opinion, that are bad laws, should be challenged in the court. And I might lost my page now. Yes, some of the laws should be challenged. So, and going back to the public health measure before, and I'm reading from section 17 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, subsection 1. The Governor General may, by proclamation, which shall be published in the official gazette, declare that a state of emergency exists for the purpose of this chapter. Subsection 17(2). The proclamation under this section shall not be effective unless it contains a declaration that the Governor General is satisfied. A, that a public emergency has arisen as a result of the imminence of a state of war between St. Vincent and a foreign state. That a public emergency has arisen as a result of the occurrence of any volcanic eruption, earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, outbreak of pestilence, or other infectious disease, or other calamities, whether similar to the foregoing or not, or action has been taken or is immediately threatened by any person of such a nature that to the extent a scale as to be likely to endanger the public safety, to deprive the community of the substantive portion of the community supplies of services essential to life. Every declaration of emergency shall lapse. And I want you to take that every declaration of emergency shall lapse. In the case of a declaration made where the House is sitting, an expiration of a period of 7 days, beginning with the date of publication of the declaration, and in the case of the expiration of a period of 21 days, beginning with the date of the publication of the declaration. I can tell you why I read that. We had never declared a state of emergency when we have, quote unquote, the pandemic. We have never declared a state of emergency. We have never basically shut down St. Vincent and the Grenadines or shut out individual from entering our borders. We have never declared that state of emergency. But we had the measures in place. And as far as I listened to Parliament and I haven't saw it anywhere in the media, that special measure has not been revoked. So that special measure, unless it be revoked by an act of Parliament, is still alive to this day. I want you to listen and understand that clearly. Unless that measure is revoked by an act of Parliament, that is still alive and active up to today. But you heard what I read. Cases of emergency, it have time that it must elapse. 7 days, 21 days. The Governor General must be satisfied, and I went on. What happened with the special measures, in my opinion, were illegal, unconstitutional, and should never have saw the light of day. And that is why sometimes I am so disappointed with some of our legal minds. And when you are a lawyer, you should not interpret the Constitution politically. You should interpret it legally. And I know why I made the statement, the Constitution should not be interpreted politically. And I made the statement in light of what happened with the no confidence motion, where a few lawyers came out and interpret the Constitution politically and not legally. And the Constitution is a legal document and should be interpreted legally and not politically. So you should take off your political hat or your political glasses and interpret the Constitution and speak truth to power. And when you give your interpretation, it may be wrong, but at least you give your legal interpretation based on your understanding. And as I indicated before, even the judge or judges does be wrong, or their decision or position does be overturned by a higher court. So there's nothing wrong with you give your interpretation and it's not 100% correct, because that is what happened all the time. Two lawyers goes to court, one represent Poya, one represent myself. And both of them believe that they have a strong case to win. And only one are successful. Only one are successful, even if both of them believe that they have a strong case. And this brings me to another clip I had to play. So bear with me. I almost forget it.
What people say, age brings reason, and that's the true thing. Because if I was much younger, things would have been different. It would have been different. It's either in the cemetery or in the jail, because that's my breadfruit tree.
Well, I represent the owners to begin with.
When Hurricane Beryl impacted Mario on July 1, 2024, it left a breach of the world-famous Salt Whistle Bay, the tourism asset on the island. However, another rift has opened up in this tiny island of 300 people. It surrounds the use of beachfront land that some residents had occupied unmolested for decades. And at the center of the controversy is a former minister of government who is also a lawyer.
Yeah. This structure I put this structure there in 82. You know, I get permission 82 to put this there from Dr. Eustace. And
Right, I'm listening.
yeah, okay. And well, of course, when they take it down, I was not there. I was in St. Vincent. And then, up to this moment, I don't get nothing. I don't know why. Nobody tell me nothing. I don't know what's going on, and all they're just hearing all kind of story. I don't know, and I just feel so sick because I never seen nothing so in a good while. I mean, not a good while since I was born is the funniest thing that I ever see, without no asking, no question, no nothing. I was here for 42 years, right down here, right here. 42 years, right here.
It's 3.5 months since burial. What are things like?
Yeah, well, I was away for about 3 of those months. I came back about a week ago. I'm down at Salt Whistle Bay. It's nothing doing it. It's just the same way as I leave it, And then the tourist season is right here. It starts, as you could see, and we need a place to build back and all this kind of thing. And then, well, at least Luke was down here last week.
Who's Luke?
Luke Brown. So he's the lawyer for the owner of the land. As a matter of fact, he and one of the guys had a quarrel, and he told the guy he represents the landowner, he represents the government, he represents the law and planning. I don't know how he has so much different this thing, Because the guy and he had a big argument, and I even went down and tried to cool out the guy, tell the guy stop it, and hear what the man say. When I came down, I stand up right there, put my 2 hands in my pocket, and I said, Lord, give me faith and patience. And Luke and this guy was just destroying everything, And Lord, at least the Lord answer my prayer, give me that faith and patience. So I was able to take things easy and cool, to be honest. I take things easy.
You said when they took it down, who was the day who took it down?
What do you call the guy? Luke Brown, that's it. Well, when I come from St. Vincent, I heard, I mean, all the people, that was the headline, that was the topic, because all the houses is he come and taking them down.
This piece of land here, my father took care of this land here for almost 50 years. Saltito Resort started in August in 1977. And before that, he was given permission, as you can see, a piece of concrete structure there by the Eustaces to build a small house like that, because he used to have his seine and his boat and everything here. And up to that point, to when Beryl came, he was still doing his little barbecue down here and selling his little food stuff and things like that for the guys that are doing barbecue. And after Beryl, structure remained there, and he had all his stuff, including his barbecue stand and things like that inside. Mr. Luke came. He came just during the time, well, after Beryl, with some guys, and started mashing down these places. Yeah. Well, when I heard of it, and they did it in the night, when I heard about it, I came down here the night, and I was looking for the barbecue because it's a big barbecue stand and very expensive. So that's the first thing come to my mind to check out. When I come, somebody had already secured that already, and when I say secure, I mean like take it. So I had also secure it and carry it up in the village.
At my age, as what people say, the age brings reason. And that's the true thing. Because if I was much younger, things would have been different. It would have been different. It's either in the cemetery or in the jail, because that's my breadfruit tree. When a man is trying your breadfruit tree, it's like destroying you. I have nothing else to do at my age. This is where I make my living from.
Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Huh?
Do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 70. I'm 70.
And you said you've been doing this for 30-something years?
Yeah, 37 years. I was on this place here. I had my building there for 37 years, you know. Undisturbed. The owner, which is Miss Eustace, I was there. She never yet tell me anything. Tell me I have to move or anything like that. As a matter of fact, man, she was going very good. She never tell me I have to move and till this hurricane come, Luke come and do what he like, you know.
This structure was here before the hurricane. What damage, if any, did the hurricane do to it?
With the hurricane?
Yes.
Well, I think it take off the roof.
Yes, pleasant good night again. Yes, so I had that to play a couple of weeks ago, and it keep slipping me. When I listened to that, I was disturbed. My ass. Oh, sorry. I was disturbed. And I called one of my friend down there who I know from that side also to get some more clarity on the matter. I mean, here is it. Whether or not. Okay, let me backtrack. There are laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the laws ought to be followed. The laws should not be there for decoration purposes. And I'm calling on a lawyer or some lawyers to go and represent these individuals. We are aware of the possessory title laws on the books. I never supported, but yes, the laws are on the books. And you listen to those guys. One indicated that he was there for 37 years. He's now 70. One indicated that he was there for 42 years. He was there from since 1982, undisturbed. He was given permission from Dr. Eustace, and he was there. After Miss Grace Eustace leave the education system, she went to Mairo and live out the remainder of her life. And they were there, she was there, and according to those individuals, they were undisturbed for over 30 years. There are procedures and there are laws, and those procedures and laws ought to follow. In the case of, well, we were told by, I think is the late Kebaka's party, when she was campaigning, I think is like how long again, Pullover. That's the first time she make mention, I heard the mention of public land, state land. And if you are there for 36 years or more, what ought to be done and what the law indicates. But in private land, once you're there for over 12 years uninterrupted, then you can apply under the adverse possessory title for those lands. So whether or not Luke or Poy or whoever were given, or who family were given permission from who, there are certain procedures you ought to follow, and you ought not to go and do things like that. Is not to say from the individuals that they were there illegally. They were granted permission, whether word of mouth or in writing, but they were granted permission. They were there for a long period of time. And therefore, no individual ought to just go and uproot the individual from that place. Any civilized person, and I'm not saying Luke is uncivilized, but any civilized person would have had a discussion with those individuals, indicated that, oh, well, our family were left in charge of the estate or whatever the case may be or may not be. And therefore, and then those guys would have, I believe, sit down, reason. But I'm asking for a lawyer, pro bono, to represent those individuals free of charge. Because you ought to know the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the issue of the adverse possessory title and what it indicates and what it speaks to. And these individuals ought to be represented, and what I consider an injustice that were done to them need to be corrected. An injustice that were done to them need to be corrected. So some of you, or if you're listening to me, maybe we can do things as lawyers. Well, as lawyer, you can do things in the interest of justice, at least this once, instead of for money. You can do things in the interest of justice, at least this once, instead of for money. When I listen to some lawyers, when they are called to the bar, they promise to uphold the law. They promise to fight for justice. They promise to represent this and represent that. And I almost want to say all of that is old talk and BS. Last but not least, Dr. Gonsalves, you came into office on the 28th of March, 2001. You indicated to us that crime was out of control and Sir James and Mitchell were responsible. And I'm paraphrasing. So words to that effect. And you promised us that you're going to be tough on crime and on the causes of crime. That is a solemn pledge you made to us, the electorate, that you was going to be tough on crime and on the causes of crime. I listened to you over and over again, and I haven't seen the plan for toughness on crime and the causes of crime. What I witnessed over the years is that we passing laws to extend the amount of time for firearm and a number of other things. But in seriously dealing with the crime and causes of crime, I think Sir Vincent Beach must be rolling in his grave. Because earlier, I think it's in 2003 or 2005, subject to correction, when there was a commission of crime at the Methodist Church Hall in Kingston by, I think it's a lawyer and an ex-commissioner of police from Trinidad and Tobago. There was a number of recommendations given at that conference. I can tell you that because we were involved. I'm talking about the NYC, we were involved, walking along with Sir Vincent Beach, well, it was Vincent Beach at the time, and also the individuals coming out from Trinidad and Tobago. And there were a number of proposals and recommendations. I could also recall Dr. Gonsalves, where the human rights had a series of discussions with lawyers and magistrates coming from different parts of the Caribbean to deal with crime, juvenile delinquency, and a number of other things. And a number of recommendations were given. I remember this Professor Dr. May, or Dr. May, I think was his name. And there was a number of recommendations. And I haven't seen any of those recommendations come into effect. I remember we have Pan Against Crime. Don't know how effective, or if it were ever effective, or whether or not we did a review and see whether or not it was working or were effective. We have the, what do you call it? I can't remember what position, but in charge of the crime, it was upstairs, the post office, I can't remember. I think Ms. Lois was responsible, ex-police officer, or the chairperson of it. We walk along with her. At the time, I was much younger. We went into the schools. We were dealing with morality, human rights, human responsibilities, and among other things. And I could say without any fear of contradiction, we had less violence in the schools and less things in the society in general. I know you will want to tell me that time and season has changed. I agree. And that means our approach to things ought to change also. Our approach to things ought to change also. And any civilized government will sit with the society or the community and have a discussion as to how we can go forward. We know in the early days they have neighborhood watches. And in my opinion, some of them were effective. I remember when we have the debate on crime in the parliament, when some good recommendation, in my opinion, came from the opposition in terms of strengthening civil society and working on those groups like the cadets, the Girl Guides, the Brown Days, the youth movement, and all of those things were make mockery of in our parliament and never saw the light of day. I know for a fact that a number of crimes, because you look at the ages of the individuals and they are young people, I don't think some of them want to be living a life of crime. And we can do better for our young people. And we has failed our young people as a society and as a people. Having stiffer penalties doesn't deal with the causes of crime. Doesn't deal with the causes of crime. What we need to do, and sometimes you listen when Dr. Gonsalves talk or have make this presentation in the region, and you listen to people laughing and you want to know if they have any common sense. Or if they just go into meeting like it's some comic show. And that disturbs me. Because we have a serious issue of crime and criminality in the region. Simply is no exception in terms of homicide. And we taking this thing as a joke. While Dr. Gonsalves and other persons may be guarded by police officers and they are secure at night, the rest of us are not so comfortable or not so secure. I passed across the police station today, and they were there as usual with their presentation. What you should do and shouldn't do. I had a piece of leaflet from them, but I don't know where I placed that. But what you should and should not do. Avoid place that is not lit properly, dark places. If you get a ride home, make sure the person see into your house and all sort of other things on the pamphlet or the leaflet that they were given out and the recommendation that they give from time to time. Good as it may be, but are they effective? What about the issue of more police patrol? What about Dr. Gonsalves, those cameras you promised us? And some of those cameras that are up that are not working. What about some of the intelligence that the police has that they don't use or can't use? Choose whichever one you're comfortable with. What about those things? Those intelligence that they may have and don't use or can't use. When are we going to allow the police to do the job effectively without fear or favor or ill will, regardless of who. When are we going to do that? Maybe that will help in terms of reducing the amount of criminal activities. What about those young men who are out of school? We find something productive for them to do. Like having skills training program like we used to, which those individuals can earn a living. Because I am of the opinion that most of the time the school don't prepare us for a living or a livelihood. What about those things that we used to do in the olden days? That work, skills training, and a number of other things. I mean, the youth organizations that were across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where a lot of young persons were involved in. And they were effective in terms of dealing with some of the problems in the society. I remember once, and I'm going to close with this, when we went down to Spring Village. And at that time, we were meeting at the clinic. And I can't remember, the nurse there, I can't remember what position they used to call them at the time. No, I wasn't a community nurse, I can't remember. And we walk along with the nurse there at the time. And we had a good thing going, man, a damn good thing going. And some idiot called himself a politician came down and talk a lot of stupidity. I wouldn't get into that. But remember, the supermarket just on the other side. We went to the owner and asked him for assistance because we were doing some things in the community and we wanted some assistance. And he basically, they said to us, no, not those individuals. Those are bad boys and they can do something to that effect. And we turned to him and we told him that if we're able to save one life and transport it to be one less troublemaker in the community. And he turned to us and said he's never see it like that. And he gave us the support. And it's not only one we were able to influence positively. And you could ask some of those people down, you know, I could call names, but I wouldn't call names. Some of them still alive. Some of them have migrated and remember the work that we did and some of the things that we instill in them. And they are happy and living model life in the society or in the societies today. I'm going to read these two together. I'm going to open the lines so you're able to call just now. Don't worry. To the caller, sending not. Eh? No, that is the wrong thing. It will be good to know if the permission he had to occupy that piece of land was in writing or just an oral agreement. Means to say verbal agreement. Yes, I understand what you mean by oral. So, like I indicated to you, let me just leave that part first. I don't know, but he said he was granted permission, whether or not it's oral or written. And he was there is a contract, is an agreement, and therefore it stands whether or not it's in writing or not. They were there uninterrupted for over 30 years. So whether or not it was given in writing or not, it doesn't really hold water. And sorry to say that it doesn't really hold water, whether or not it was in writing or not. Once they were there undisturbed for over that period of time, nobody has the right to go and move them like that. You really think he is rolling in his grave? The same man who said he don't look for. Yes, I believe he is rolling in his grave because he really wanted to see those recommendations or those proposals. That is why he had the session. He sat in there day after day, and he basically, I think he went and passed on those information. Yes, I believe that. Father Baba, I don't know if you heard anything about the government taking over the funds for the Friendly Society in the Greater Days. I understand that the people can't get the money to pay for the cost of their loved ones' funeral when they passed away. I don't know if this is the case, and if it's the case with the societies on the mainland, like the Bunpan Society, I don't know if someone who from the Grenadines can call in and let us know what is happening. But those people who are living on the property by the law, they are entitled to the spot they were living on. The common law states that the owner of the property has to show ownership. This is done by collecting a steady payment or causing some form of interruption, even so often to provide ownership. To prove ownership. You remember the person, big bought his property from state that when the government failed to pay her the money to allow the villagers to walk across the property, she will cut down a coconut tree and block the path. She did. Well, I basically stated that already. So you once the person was living there, and he indicated that he was living there for 37 years uninterrupted, and I indicated that already once you were there uninterrupted for over amount of years, I think it's 12 years, then therefore you can claim ownership to the land. Is this a repeat from last week? Tell Poya leave it alone. He can talk for the NDP. Who's going to call in? Okay. Yes. So you either this guy is who going to call in. I'm looking to turn off. Okay. You're listening to Keeping It Real right here on Nice Radio, and is free. You're free to call to make your contribution if you so desire. Poya.
Father, it's important. I'm not speaking for the NDP. I'm just speaking as a citizen and listening to these sort of things, which, to me, it does not enhance or better the image of the party to the public. If you have to end up being crocodiles, eating up one another, might as well you dissolve yourself and let people go individually. Yeah.
Mm.
If that's the choice. Then
Okay.
I wish some of you would put yourself in this situation to seeing things plaster up on the social media. That are lies.
A pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night.
Good night, good night.
Could you correct me, please, that what you are speaking about with the folks, them they will Luke. Who Luke is this?
Well, he indicated Luke Brown.
But is it sorry to say, is a repercussion on the family of them? Look at what the father had did to that lady. You understand when I was much a younger girl, took off that roof for the lady with the children. No, something not singing right at us. Some still ban ping 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 ping. It's something wrong. Something really wrong. Listen up here.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So, preach it. If one be an honest police officer, not equipped as well in the fight, but basically the police officers are not equipped as well in fighting against the criminals. and the technologies of the 90s cannot work today in crime fighting. Pleasant good night. Good night. Okay. Yes. So so the issue of fighting crime, you need the technologies, and the police need the equipment to do the job. That is what is said here. And what I agree, we can't use the old crime fighting method to fight 24th century crime.
Modern day
Yeah, yes. And like I said, that the cameras that we installed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are placed, they must be working, and most of them are not working. And if we place them there, it should not be an ornament or for decoration purposes. Good night.
Good night to you.
Good night. Good
to you.
night.
Good night to you. Hey, where's that feedback coming from?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, boy, this country has so much bad things, it would seem, so much non-progressive or unprogressive. I know for this government, they were the progressives. Maybe they still are the progressives. But how can we have so much progressives within a party, and they're making Vincentians look like they don't know what they're doing, or they can't get Vincentians to do the right thing. St. Vincent and Grenadines is on the world stage in terms of its size, population, and all of that. When it comes to crime, criminal activities, and you boast about, accomplishing, achieving so much, and you can't make an effective change in terms of stopping all the killing that is taking place in this country. Something had to be wrong. So are you really the progressive in terms of where we are going, our current state of fair for all the criminals that or all the criminal activities that are taking place in this country? I am looking at it from all angles and so on, to see if I, in my own wisdom, my own understanding of how a society is developing or progressing, I'm looking at it from my own knowledge of what I'm hearing and what is happening, to understand if we're on the right track. And for hell, I can't understand. I don't think we are on the right track. Corruption, and we're afraid to deal with corruption. And when I say we afraid, our people, because a lot of us are fearful of what can happen to our own, our own self. But some, as Dr. Kenneth John of blessed memory used to say, somebody got to bell the cat. Well, who will bell the cat? But when all is said and done, is we the same people who are faced or who are living under such condition? Is we have to bell the cat? Is we Listen to all these stories that you're hearing. We are leading up come next year, which is just a matter of weeks away. Huh? From the time we step into 2025, I am anticipating that in the year 2025, from the time we step in January month, all we're going to hear about is the politics of trying to outsmart, outdo whoever is putting up a strong opposition. So I hope we all as Vincentians are taking stock. I mean, sometimes I myself could get frightened because if I am going to talk in public and mention certain things and I'm the only person doing it, I may well become, a target. I try to think objectively. I try to speak whenever I have to speak objectively, focus my thoughts on what is going on. I challenge anyone. To tell me how they feel, what I am saying as a citizen of this country. I mean, there's a God, right? But how many of us in our society today respect God? So let's get down to some real facts. Who destroyed the NYC to begin with, the National Youth Council? Who destroyed them? And Abraham, that should be an easy question for you to answer. Who destroyed the National Youth Council?
The last executive that were there.
Okay, so among themselves, that's what they're telling me?
The last executive were there. They're the one who they was handed to them, and they're the one who destroyed it.
All right, okay, okay. But it makes me ask a question further. Is the National Youth Council still effective or still present in the rest of the Caribbean?
I don't know. I have to check. No, I don't know.
You see, I'm just going back to these fundamental issues that would have done so well for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Oscar Allen, people like Oscar Allen. And you know what he had to say when he was on his dying bed? He wrote a nice piece, but that seemed not to have touched Vincentians the way it ought to. Curtis King is now a big minister, if I could put it that way. Even though he's functioning from a diminished ministry, like when he first got that portfolio, right? I know based on what is happening, the Prime Minister is really larger in charge of the Ministry of Education. Now, he may see nothing wrong with that because maybe he can do better in terms of standing independently and expressing himself. Well, when I heard the Prime Minister say, what the Prime Minister said the other day at the convention, he has the youngest brain in the party, something like that. Well, if that's the case, no wonder why we are going like how we are going to. The Prime Minister is not too far from his 80th birthday. Will we see the first octogenarian in leadership position as Prime Minister? I know there was a guy in Central America who was in charge. He was blind. He was blind and he became a sick man. Can't remember the name. Well, there's another, and as I said that, when our guys went to El Salvador the other day to play El Salvador is led by a dictatorship. And I happened to hear him say, listening to the BBC News and so on, that he's the coolest dictator around. He made no, he didn't put water in his mouth to say that. And I remember speaking to Ezra Hendrickson and asking him if he ever went to El Salvador and warning that they're going in a place, they're going to play football in a country that is led by a dictator, by a dictator. And according to reports, I've never been there. It's not an easy place for their own people to survive. And could you imagine? Well, the whole place is in a mess, Could you imagine, what they say, 80% of gangsters controlling Haiti today? So we have examples all around us. When I wonder if it's some of the literature that we read, like The Making of the Comrade. Well, if that is what impact is that having on Vincentians? Maybe the results that I'm seeing, it is having a positive, it is having a positive impact on Vincentians, The Making of the Comrade. How many Vincentians read that book, and what do they? I know I'm speaking as I'm accustomed to right across the board. I would like to hear some of the brightest supporters tell me when they read that book, The Making of the Comrade. What was their impression, or what is their impression? Is that a plus? Is that a plus of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Boy, but anyhow, maybe I'm going into waters that I shouldn't go, where some people are concerned, because I am appealing to all, especially to the youngest people in the country who are critical thinkers. Make your voices heard. As critical thinkers who are taking a close examination of where our country is today and what role, what role you would like, what changes, because the word revolution is a very popular word with this regime. Everything is a revolution in this country. So it seems as though the revolution started when the ruling regime came into office. These are things we must think about. And as I'm saying, Sonia, I want to hear you tonight. My good friend Sonia. Now, you're one of the positive women I'm calling on. So there's so much. Okay, NYC went out the way. That's why I raised the question. And the Prime Minister didn't waste no time in appointing something he calls the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council. But Vincentians, for those who are under his bosom or whatever, could you tell me what role, how effective the Prime Minister Advisory Council is in today's society? What are they engaged in doing? We have a country to build, as Emmanuel say. I don't have to be concerned, the reason why I say I don't have to be concerned is that I have passed my best years, and I know I ain't going to fool myself wanting to live extra years. So I know death may well, death may well be my next destination. But before I die, I want to raise or help to raise the consciousness of intentions. I remember when the Prime Minister got into office, one of my first questions when I had a conversation with him, I asked him, I said, are you happy with the political consciousness of our country? These are the things I look at, you know. I say, are you happy with the political consciousness of his sentence? And if he doesn't lie, he will, you know, because he has a good memory. He will remember that I did ask him that question and he said no. So the political consciousness I'm dealing with, or I want to ask him about, what has he made that progress or made that change to make our political consciousness a better one than when he took office? Or is it the same old khaki pants, as they would say in political terms? I am just raising these issues. I am not an expert, but I'm smart enough, I'm sensible enough, I'm knowledgeable enough, following all what is going on all over the world. Remember, he was bold enough to say he wrote, how many you remember? He wrote to Putin, the man who has caused so much trouble in the world. And apart from him, the one in Israel there. Is that really impact, you know, the rest of all the civil disturbances, the wars you're having? Are Vincentians realizing or thinking if it is having an impact on us as a people? Because that has been coming up recently too. And by the way, I heard the newly elected president to take office sometime in January, I think the 6th of January next year, has appealed to places, I don't know, St. Vincent and Grenadines, has appealed to countries to take in their what do you call it?
Deportees?
Undocumented people from America. That is interesting. Or maybe we have no intentions. We have no intentions undocumented in the United States of America. But that is something for us to be concerned about, because in earlier times, I know man and woman who are able to get into North America, in America and Canada illegally, have been sent back home, been deported and all of that. And these are some of the issues. So I don't know if St. Vincent and Grenadines will get any of these people, any Vincentian, or, well, it seems as though they're looking for some.
Hey? Okay. Pleasure, good night.
Hello, good night. Hello?
Good night.
Good night. Poy, I want to ask you a question. How many persons are employed by the tongue board?
Probably about 60 something.
What exactly do they do?
They have a number of things. They have the securities. They have those also that clean up the market and Little Tokyo. Also, you have some down at the cemetery that would dig grave and keep the cemetery virgin to clean.
You think maybe there's too many? They got too many of them?
Well, I would say so.
Most time I pass, I see them. Well, those I see in the market, they're not doing anything holy. They're doing nothing. So maybe if you get rid of some of those, then you could increase the pay of some of them. And I want to ask this question: where the money is going to come from to pay them? You have any idea? When everybody wants to give them $400 a fortnight, where the money going to come from? People should consider that. I thought with that one day. Now, Abraham, I heard you talking about the law and political this and all that sort of stuff, and politicians and the Constitution. But this is why you have quote here, quote there, and quote there. Because one group of lawyers going to interpret it this way, and another group of lawyers going to interpret it that way. For example, I remember when we had no opposition in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and a lawyer advised, because the Constitution does not allow for any opposition to be named if you don't have opposition people elected. Mitchell had to go all the way to the Privy Council to forget what some lawyer in St. Vincent was telling him. Some people just want to make nice to people. Now, for Mr. What's his name again? I think his name is Franklin. I can't remember. His name gone on my head. A few years ago, well, maybe 30 years ago or something so, there was this public speaking contest. And there was this young man there. I wasn't living here yet, visiting. And I heard the guy, and I actually bought a book for the guy. I was that impressed with his presentation. I don't know if the fellow from Georgetown, who making out last week that there are no excess deaths anywhere, I don't know if it's the same guy, I don't know. But he has the same name. I don't know. But I wanted to recommend something for that guy or anybody else. They just had a 7 hours hearing in Australia, COVID-19 an inquiry. I would like maybe the guy, that guy or anybody else, including of course Jimmy Prince, should get it and listen to it. Including of course Gerald Thompson, including of course the chief medical officer. They should get it and listen to it. 7 hours. Might learn something. Now, did we have an ex-young person died last night? An ex-young lady died last night? You see, it seems to me like maybe Abraham Hugh, every now and again Ernesto Cook, and a fella named Spencer Huggins, I don't know who he is, are the only persons really care about these people who were forced, coerced, blackmailed. Take this poison or you starve. I want to suggest you mentioned that this is what, 7 months since the people been out of, well, no. 3 years. How many years have been out? Since 1921.
Fourth Christmas.
This is the 4th Christmas.
Correct.
I want to suggest something to them. To those people who put the, listen, I see road work going on. I'll give them some road work now. Get them some road work. Them teachers and the policemen and the healthcare people, I'll offer them some road work so they could spend Christmas and go by wherever and buy whatever. Talking about Christmas. When COVID started, I remember the Port Authority had a problem. The only port in all the islands that had a crane to take off containers was in Vincent and the Grenadines. It went bad. And because they were carrying on with this hinny-huggy nonsense about COVID, the person couldn't come here. If he came here, he would have to be quarantined for 14 days or all kind of stupidness before he would go walk on the crane. The problem was the boats have cranes in it. That's why only St. Vincent had one. They had crane, but theirs wasn't working by the time it got to St. Vincent. I had to go back somewhere up beyond that to get it fixed. I got a tape with a guy on radio saying that heads will have to roll. Yeah, on a Sunday thing. What do they call it? Kiss Mr. Prime Minister behind. That's the name of it. That heads would have to roll. Yes. But now, don't know what's going on. But I'm getting complaints that containers are now not being opened. I wonder if they want to take back Mission. Well, no, they went up there and say, he ain't taking injection, and the people and them following the leader, and they must go home. By the way, Poyle, you see that question there? What I asked you? I said it about repeat it. People wanted, for whatever reason, I don't understand. They wanted Bishan gone long time. Calls were made to get rid of Bishan. Calls were made on Sunday morning. How the Port Authority running like a marble shop. They even call a meeting and repeated it with cabinet members and everybody to discuss the marble shop that was being run by Bishop. I criticized Bishop Unforceable. When he got done, the guy knew what he was doing. You know, for years while Bishop was there, St. Vincent got for ports in the Eastern Caribbean. Never, I think they won twice, I'm not sure. But at least never came below number 3 in rating for operation. Never. Anyway, they called me to get rid of him for a reason I don't know. And fellas started to talk about the marble shop thing again. And the Prime Minister was told, turn to that page, turn to this page, turn to that page, turn to that page. And when he saw the prophets there, he said he didn't know. But wait a minute. People were making sure that he got the documents because he complained he didn't know. And Bishan was sending the thing directly to him. So how come you come on there and talking, chopping this marble shop? And then the next thing you know, when you say look at page that, you see the prophets there. But where do you think I'm now? Where do you think I'm now? All people are ready to see. I don't know, you know. I don't know. They're just talking. And I really don't know. But here's the port. Couple of weeks ago, you remember a picture, I'm pretty sure you saw a picture with the Port Authority handing over check for repair for the people in the grannies. Remember that?
Yeah.
You all saw that?
Yes.
Well, 2 weeks before that, the port that Bishan left there with so much money was so broke, the government had to hand over 3-point-something million to the port. Here they are now, 3 weeks later, claiming the port got so much money that they could do that. In the meantime, Beryl struck and the part where, or the port where they unload the cars, the claim got damaged. The little twop on radio talking about 60% damage. Based on what? Nobody asking him based on what? Nobody. They're too bright. They didn't ask him, how do you know that? How do you assess that? But they didn't bother to repair that. They just merely send the car about something else to damage cruise ship, right? But you know what happened? When they went to belittle Bishan because he didn't take injection and for whatever reason, now everybody in St. Vincent who had a job with the government must be poisoned or you can't walk. They told the people and them up there that is me who got all your work in here. So I better go get the injection. Let me tell you something. At one point, if the port needed, well, not really, somebody assumed the port needed 120 workers. 80 of the workers were sent from one constituency. One. From the whole of central Kingston to North Leeward, had I think 2. 2! Folks, 80 from one place. I wonder if we might find the same thing at the tongue board. I wonder if we might find it there at the tongue board. That you just have people there to give them a work. Oh, well, maybe some of them teachers and policemen who do send home, they might want to give them a walk through it. Anyway, they have a problem now at the port, like I say. People can't get their goods for Christmas. They can't get the containers open. I wonder if we're going to hear anything about heads going to roll. I wonder if we're going to hear anything about that. Huh? Any heads going to roll? Because people can't get their stuff for Christmas?
That in a tourist site.
Oh, okay. I see. So, the next thing I want to come to. The other morning, I'm hearing again another puff piece. Anybody could tell me whether Christopher Columbus ever set foot on the island he named St. Vincent? Anybody?
No.
He didn't?
No.
Anybody could tell me what time the British actually, what year, brought some slaves to St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Anybody could tell me? How long? Was it that St. Vincent was the last place in the Caribbean to have slaves?
Yes.
It was. So tell me something. How the hell did Chester Connell and now people claiming talk about Chataway and Chataway? Now let me tell you something. We were taught a lot of lies. Fellas go in basement in England and come up with a bunch of stupidness. What happened a few years ago? I happened to learn. Okay? Look at Chataway. There was nothing Carib about him. Carib, Chataway came here from Martinique, the son of a priest and somebody else. And you know why he came here? To fight fight against the British for the French. He then outsmarted Duvalier and them, give them leeward, and he take out so. That's what he did. So now somebody come, they shot away and who killed this and who killed that and who killed that. But now, last week, I told you all about our bananas, who kill it? White people. I told you all about the offshore that we had, white people. Then some people fleeing taxes in their countries, decided they're going to do a thing where we have some favorable tax haven so they could save some of the money that they work hard, they invest. So they could put us in some of these places. They went after that too. You know what? Well, if I think. Obama, in the first week he got there, promised he's going to shut it down. He did. Lynch commented on it. E.G. Lynch commented on it. So now they came up with this thing about, well, citizenship by investment. At first, listen, some of them weren't set up properly. Only the lawyers were making money. I was totally against the thing. Until sometime last year or earlier this year, I got a copy of the one from St. Lucia. Set up completely different, and the money was dedicated for that. Not going in lawyers' pocket. No lawyers, no blowfish from nowhere getting rich off of this. No blowfish. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, I sent you all, my sources sent me a check. Straight from the offshore sector, 13 million to build a hospital in St. Lucia. You also heard them also talking about the fella having revamped the thing in Dominica. They now have money for the airport. Could you imagine that this guy who was on radio against the thing now come out and say, listen, let's follow the St. Lucia model and give in full support to that. No, nobody in here. All you think Ralph would have let that slip? You all think Ralph would have let that slip? I don't think so. So, you have them now wanting to shut that down. I wonder who are those people? Is it the same white people on them? The same white people on them? But then you have the same white people and them now, and people, listen, the people catching blackfish in Barley has nothing to do with culture. It has to do with living, folks. It has to do with a way of life for years. But then the same white people who you're cussing and how they kill this and they kill that now wants to impose a next thing on the people of Barley. Yes. And then you come and can tell us, well, we live in a wall now. We live in some wall where we got to do this and we have to do that. Well, I'm saying to hell with them. It's about time we tell these white people, Mr. Chester Connell, go to hell. Who the hell needs your visit to go anyway? So if the people in Barley don't kill a blackfish, they ain't gonna get visa. So keep it damn visa. Keep it. But all you come now promoting thing, and you know I got the tea, but I didn't get to it yet. Where the same Mr. Chester Collins, a blasted elitist, that's what he is. Said the other morning that Mr. Cubits, he doesn't know anything about him, so that makes him a non-entity. I got the tape, folks. Cupid is a non. What the hell does Chester Connell? He doesn't know about anything about it. He said so. He said so. Same man who don't say, well, all these people don't do to us already, starting from slavery, this and that and that. But we must now bow down to them. Because this is we mustn't kill. Well, I like Blackfish script, Chester. I like Blackfish scripts. When I lived in Chumaka and Miss Hooper and them, my Blackfish scripts used to come to the school. Make sure I got my Blackfish scripts. But you want to come now and promoting what you want with your elitist self. You're nothing but an elitist, Chester. I'm really surprised at you. Because you used to call me from Brooklyn for interview me on my columns in the newspaper. Remember, Chester? And you run gone someplace else, go live. You had a radio station. What happened to it? You're doing a program, and Finlay come in to cut off the damn current. And you now want to lecture us on who is this and who is that? Yeah? You're an elitist, Chester. That's what you are. And by the way, this is for some other people now. Mitchell, let me say this too. Who talking about me and Mitchell? When Mitchell said for the COVID, listen, I don't care much you like you. I don't care much I defend you when you're wrong, and I ain't going under no bushel to tell you you're wrong. Eh? You know what Mitchell said? You all forget? That Vincentians are accustomed to take bribes. So Ralph must offer them $50, offer them a meal for them to go take the injection. I don't think that last young lady there took any meal. She probably just wanted a job. Yeah? Jimmy Prince, why don't you come out and tell us if she was vaccinated? Yeah? Tell us now, Jimmy Prince. Come out and tell us. And that was the problem. I went berserk afterward. A man who was defending forever made a statement like that Vincentians are accustomed to you all believe that? Vincentians are accustomed to take bribes? And because I'm his biggest defender, I'm going to shut my mouth? Hell shit, no. Sorry, doggy. I ain't going to do it. So I said what I had to say. But I want to ask all your questions. Mitchell won all the seats. He got in there. And he got a record. I don't know if all it on. The only party ever won 66%, 60-something percent, either 64 or 66% of the vote was Mitchell. And all the seats, which go back, there's somebody telling him he's supposed to name opposition. I don't know how come. But guess what? I'm wondering how many financial economic wizards Mitchell had in the party. So he could do so well that he could win all the seats in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Good night, guys. Good night.
Yes, keeping it well right there on Nice Radio.
Father Abraham, I wanted to deal with an issue concerning the nurses. There are a number of things that are impacting on the nurses. I mentioned it earlier in October. about the changing up of the schedule and whereby when they are accustomed to get 2 days off, they are getting 1 day off.
Just hold for me. Let me just take this. Present, good night. Okay. Present, good night.
Abraham.
Hey.
Boy, good night.
Good night.
What going on? All good?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
man.
Yeah, I hear all this talking every now and then. Somebody bring up the issue with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we see what's going on with a lot of people in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and a lot of people keeping quiet in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told the Prime Minister before, and I told the Minister of Health and everybody else involved, I am not going to forgive them for that mandate that they passed, which was an illicit piece of legislation. It was unlawful.
Mm-hmm.
Every country now, where there's a court case with these mandates,
Mm-hmm.
they are getting overturned, and all of them, the governments are getting blamed. It was illegal
Correct.
for them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to forgive any government anywhere in this world who put in their mandates. And look at the results you're getting now with all these young people instantaneously from nothing to stage 3 and stage 4 cancers, which is what one of the top scientists in the world, Dr. Van der Bosch, said. He said that was going to happen between 2 and 5 years. Look at the explosion of what's going to happen with cancers that they call turbo cancers. So let me say this before I wrap up. Boy, you can wrap up another time. There's a report that just came out last Monday, December the 2nd. It was a press release, right, in the United States. And this press release, guys, comes from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability. And it's heading, let me just bring it back up here, guys. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let me just bring it back up here. Final report, published December the 2nd, 2024. Published report. Final report. COVID Select concludes 2-year investigation. Issues 500 plus. I think it's about 520 pages. Final report on lessons learned and the path forward. Now, there's a guy, the chairman of this committee is a guy named Brad Wenstrup. He's a congressman and he's a doctor. He led this committee. And I want to read a direct quote from what he said, because it's a long document and I ain't going to go through it. So I just want to read this part for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is Mr. Wenstrup. This report would help the United States and the world predict the next pandemic. Prepare for the next pandemic, protect ourselves from the next pandemic, and hopefully prevent the next pandemic. Members of the 119th Congress should continue and build off this work. There's more information to find and honest actions to be taken, wrote Mr. Wenstrup, and he continues. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted a distrust. Listen to this, guys. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted a distrust in leadership. Trust is earned. Accountability, transparency, honesty, and integrity will regain this trust. That's what the report is saying, folks. A future pandemic requires a whole of America response managed by those without personal benefit or bias. We can always do better, and for the sake of future generations of Americans, it can be done. Now, anybody wants this report, just text me, 416-823-5832. You will get it. I'll send it to you. And yet,
you have people in government, wherever they are, still telling people that they got to go and get jabbed, and everybody know what the end result is. I mean, you talk about a bunch of corrupt, I mean, I can't find enough adjectives to describe these people. They knew. A lot of them knew. Frank and I be sending all the same information we get into tons of people, including people in government. And these guys still went along with this. I want to know how and all most of them who supported this kind of criminal, evil, wicked activity got the goddamn medical degree. I really don't. I mean, it's mind-boggling that these people can do this. It is to citizens who don't have a clue, who put so much trust into people to save them, to save their lives, to make sure they get better when something happens to them. And they went along with this nonsense. When I tell you I lose a lot of respect for many, many of them, and I ain't joking. A lot of respect, because they went, Frank and I ain't going to medical school, and some of the others, Jomo and Issa Baptiste and others, but common sense alone prevails. The first man who writes a book didn't go to school. It's common sense make you write the book. And what make you feel? We got these people that we put them on these bloody pedestals and make them feel that they're bright. I'm not discrediting you that you might know a little bit more about the human body, but you don't know everything about it. But yet, all of them will be promoting it. Every single person will be promoting it. None of them has come back on the radio and say, you know what, we made a mistake. The only one I apologize is Sinclair Leacock. Only one. Every single one of them will be promoting it. None of them has come back on the radio and say, you know what, guys? You know what? We really made a gaffe. We really made a serious error. And we're sorry. No, they went along with the crap. All these elitist people who believe they should sit in an ivory tower and control everybody else like minions. But I tell you what, once I have a voice, none of you going to come back here with any of this nonsense. None. I'll continue to go on any medium and shut it down once I find that it's bogus. It was nothing more than a hoax. Nothing more than a hoax. And I hope Vincentian never swallow this again. Never in history. Or they must let this happen again to all you. Never. And I blame, I just blame them public servants, It's 40% of you. 40% from every sector in government. They say, hey, me taking this, because me ain't sure what it's me. Tell me what the government could do. Tell me what they could do. All them would have just had to put the tail between their legs and just go back in the office and do their work. And I'm talking about government people, government ministers. Every single one of them. They couldn't do anything. Strength in numbers, guys. Strength in numbers. Don't follow what the next one because they panic. They will say, well, I'm going to take it because I want my job. If all you say, oh, they ain't taking it, they could fire all of you. They could fire all of you.
All right, thank you. We're out of time. So,
all right, buddy,
okay, thank you. Easy. All right. Yes, we're out of time. But you have 20 seconds.
Well, good night, and hope you enjoy your season so far.
Okay. Frank Call tonight need to be played on every talk program and plastered on social media. I heard the last thing they are trying to have a, we call it preemptive pardon for Fauci. They're suggesting that in some quarters in the United States.
Yeah.
Until next week, we have a wonderful evening.
Keeping It Real is an interactive radio program heard only on Nice Radio. Join your host, Joel Abraham, every Friday as we discuss important issues affecting our society from 8 to 10:30 p.m. For persons living outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you can still listen to us on Nice Radio's website, www.niceradio.info, or you can email us at bdsnice@gmail.com, or simply give us a call at 784-456-5967. Remember, it's Keeping It Real, the interactive talk show program heard each and every Friday only on Nice Radio.
Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tomorrow, the Caribbean. Nice Radio, 90.3.